All right. Hey everyone, this is Diamond Rivera of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast coming all the way from New York City. This is episode 101. Yes, episode 101. And we are taking it all the way up north, Canada to be exact. But before we get started, this episode is sponsored by SuperpowerRadio.com, where you can listen to this interview live in high quality, as well as YouTube, Facebook. Also be available on Spotify and other streaming platforms. And tonight, people, we have a very special guest all the way up north, a personal dancer that, for me, I've admired for so many years from his work with Cadence, now transitioning, having his platform called Next Up in the Spotlight. And tonight, people, we have all the way up north, the one and only Mr. Patrick Danquah of Next Up in the Spotlight.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that introduction, my friend.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I had to practice that once or twice,
Yeah. I felt that little chills. I was like, okay, that's me.
Absolutely, man. From one host to another. I mean, Patrick, as we've spoken also privately, our paths have crossed many years through the dance community, from your work with Cadence out there in Toronto.
Absolutely.
And just different congresses throughout the states, and realizing it's very few people in our community that can ultimately make a transition into still contributing to society positively.
Thank you.
Just being, reinventing in a sense, especially with everything that's been going on.
Yes, no, I hear what you're saying. And I appreciate that. Thank you for the introduction. And I think it's important. Like if you give back to the community in any way, and everyone is finding their way, which I think is fantastic to see within our dance community. Artists are finding different outlets, different platforms to give back, just because it's such a weird time right now, right? So it's really testing us to shift and pivot. So for me, I felt like hosting and giving people at least an opportunity to speak their truths, their struggles, their challenges, what they're going through, but also educate the community. I thought it was a great way. So thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, realizing that me and you have met the same people that we interview personally over the years, realizing too how important these artist stories are, realizing like yourself, the grit and the grind of type of lifestyle. So you having that experience, just talking to another artist, it's really not more of an interview. It's more of a discussion, a conversation, a dialogue between.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, at first it started off like, because I was training with my partner in this time. And it's like, sometimes people, like, she wants to advance as a dancer. And the one thing we notice when we're with Cadence, people want to advance as dancers. And you see the people you want to work with, the Atacan Alemanas, the Zapphires, the Adolfos, whomever it may be. People see that, but sometimes they don't know the grit and what it takes to get right. They just see the finished product. So that was one of the things I really wanted to bring out when I first started doing this, is have artists explain what they do on a daily basis to get from point A to point B, how they calculate it, how they set their roadmap, what's the mental, and when things don't work out and you don't get invited to congresses and, you don't have a perfect show, or the show, no one likes it, and you thought it was your baby, you put it on the stage, right? You put all this hard work, and then you finish, and like no one's like, all right, how do you like get ready to kind of embrace that and prepare for that, and then how do you really just psych yourself to work through some of that? Because I felt like, everyone wants to get there, but not everyone understands some of the struggles that goes along. So it was great because some of the artists would come on and they would share their challenge, or you'd have partners who would say how they fight in the studio, but still need to find a way to show up, for the event, because they have a deadline, they have an event they have to meet. So I thought it was great for people to hear that, because they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it's that hard. I didn't realize it takes that much time. I didn't realize they travel that much, right? And then it just gave people like a different perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, because we realize too, through these artist stories, we learn so much more about them, because I think a lot of times in this community, we lose sight of the human aspect of people and just focus on performance. How did you do on the show? What demo did you take?
Yes.
Workshop? What, just who you want to social dance with. And I think what you and I are doing, and many others, is now allowing the supporters of these artists that we love and we talk to now to have a better connection with them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the thing.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, and I love that. I talk a lot, so just tell me if I'm talking too much, man.
No,
but
not at all.
I love that, you know, we're giving people just an opportunity to connect with these artists, just to see who they are off stage, you know. And some artists, it's funny, and I won't mention some artists, it's different because they're like, okay, I'm talking on a one-on-one. It's a little bit different than dancing and performing. It's a different comfort. So I know some artists I interviewed, they had to adjust to that, but I love that we're giving our community just an opportunity to see the artist in a different light, you know, just like they're people with challenges like you, fears, insecurities like you, and this is what they did to overcome. So maybe you can learn a thing or two. Like, I'll tell you this from, and you let me know your thoughts, but from all those interviews with all these artists, I was getting motivated, and I started tweaking the way I was doing things. I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know this person did this and went through that. You did this every day, and you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like Falco from Spain gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and gets into the studio every day. Yeah. And that's just because that's how he was raised. He said his family owns a dance studio, so he grew up in a dance family. So he's always done that. And other artists say they'll train for 5 hours a day every day with their partners. And it's just, I started to see what the gaps in what I was doing. And I was like, you know what? If I want to get to this next level, I need to start adding things and tweaking things. So it was motivational for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because in reality, it's easy for the guests that we have on our platforms to deal with us or to understand us because we're one.
Right.
For us to understand everyone's different personalities, that right there is a gradual process. For me, most of my guests I know personally. I work with them, just knew them in the scene for years. We've talked, but there are very few of them that I'm getting to know. But through Facebook over this past year, it's helped.
Yes.
It's helped me understand your vulnerability. It helps me understand your thought process.
Right.
You know, so for me, realizing that all of the guests that I have on have different stories, but realizing that dance is almost a synonymous factor that brings everything together.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
You know? So, I mean, for me, as we talk here, understanding, of course, what you do with Next Up in the Spotlight, I think it's really also important that we understand kind of, or giving a glimpse into the life of Patrick before Next Up in the Spotlight, and help myself and the audience understand who is Patrick Danquah.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. For sure. So who is Patrick Danquah? I'm going to take it back to, and I'm going to try to keep it concise, but give some interview. So, you know, I was, you know, it's funny. So my family's from Ghana, West Africa, right? So at the beginning, when I first got into dance, I was learning salsa and bachata and everything. But there was a big Afro piece that was important to me. And I felt like I wanted to bring that to the stage, just to kind of respect and represent where I come from, right? From West Africa, Ghana, next to Nigeria. So depending on where you are, some of them will follow the traditional, like Yoruba, like Afro-Cuban pieces that you'll see more in Cuba, right? So what I try to do with Cadence Dance Academy, and I'll get into, before Cadence Dance Academy, we were just guys, Clifton and I. Clifton was the other co-founder, Cadence. We had it together. And, you know, when we first got into the scene, we just wanted to, you have to understand, so we were like these two, you know, Black kids. He's Jamaican, you know, I'm African. We're living in Canada. We're living in the North, you know. And what we saw, we loved dance and we loved music and we loved creative expression. And that's something we always did. And then we felt like within the scene, we wanted to add our interpretation of what we were seeing in salsa and bachata, right? So we were taking lessons. We were doing the congresses. We were going out to New York. You know, we had Choco was running his event at that time. We were back in the day, right? When Choco was doing it, we were flying out there, working with him. We were training with other people, Michael Fonts, Juan Matos. We were doing our due diligence to train. And then we were training in Toronto as well. But then as we grew, we were like, you know what, we want to showcase and maybe do this thing, put this something called Cadence together. The idea was, let's take in all the knowledge that we've attained by practicing, but make it our own too, because he has a style that's different than my style. So we wanted just to kind of almost like fuse it together. And that's what a lot of people know us as like a fusion dance company, because we're like, let's respect the fundamentals of salsa, bachata, whatever it is that we're dancing. Let's respect the art form, but let's add our own interpretation and flavor to it. And that's what we did. So that's how Cadence kind of came to start. We did a lot of traveling, and from there, you know how it is when you do the right choreos and you work with people, you start to take off. And so we were going from event to event, and we grew that way. But that's what it was, man. I was someone that just loved to dance, loved to be creative. And I met another person, and we meshed and we put this together, and we never knew Cadence was gonna be where it did. And I gotta give a shout out to oh my God, what is his name? I can't forget his name. He used to run the LA Congress, and he used to run the World South.
Albert Torres.
Albert Torres. So Albert saw us put on a show in Toronto, and he invited us out to LA. He really loved the piece. He showed us a lot of love, and he's like, I want to get you in front of certain people. And I got to give a shout out to Albert back in the day, because he really gave us the vision. Like sometimes you need someone to say like, hey, this, what you're doing here, you're on the right path. Maybe you need to tweak it, but I believe in you. And that belief was enough for us to say, hey, okay, maybe we have something here. Let's continue working at it, our craft. And, we were fortunate enough to be touring for all those years and create a team underneath us that believed in what we were doing. Like within our city, what ended up happening, because from the north, we're in Toronto, Canada. So we don't have the competition that New York has. You know what I mean? We don't have that competition like you guys do. So it was easy for us to stand out. Yeah. Because we were so different here, and we got a lot of love here. And a lot of the good dancers wanted to be a part of our school. So we were fortunate. We would travel with like 8 team members, and some people from the city would also come with us just to be a part of it. So we really it became a community. Like when I look at what we were able to establish with Cadence, like, this is the one thing that, my business partner also agreed is like, let's create a community. Like, it's not just expression and dance, like salsa and bachata brings people together, but now you're creating a community. So the whole energy is different. Like people want to be a part of that. When we're traveling to, whether they're performing or not, they would come just to support and be a part of the event, but also share in that energy, man. So that's kind of the early phases of Patrick in getting into Cadence.
Absolutely. Realizing too, I would say when I met you guys through with Cadence and the traveling, one thing I could say now from the spectator side was what everything you just said was absolutely correct and more, because I came from, of course, the New York scene where salsa dominated for so many years. Of course, that transition of bachata was evident. But it was when we saw Cadence at the New York Congress, when it used to be at the Hilton. We're going to go back. This was, and I told people, I would sit in the crowd and I would tell the people I was around, this is different. This is actually, and I'm going to be totally honest here and transparent. You guys were so refreshing because, and I'm going to be truthfully honest.
Be truthfully, my brother.
You guys woke me up from a lot of the 50 plus shows that they would have. So I was so excited when I knew Cadence was coming, because I knew it was something different, but I knew it was something genuine.
Thank you, man.
And honest. And it came from the heart, because I knew people from the Canada side. I used to perform sometimes in Rochester, and we knew people from like Rhythmic Fire. So back in those days, but realizing that Canada, of course, like you said, up north, you don't maybe have all the resources. You have to kind of go down and kind of search. And I remember talking to Clifton. Him telling me the same thing of we had a chip on our shoulder in the sense of we wanted to prove ourselves through our actions on the dance floor. And that's really where you make, like you said, you make a name for yourself. I remember seeing you guys at congresses, and then you started traveling all over the world. And honestly, even though there have been so many companies that have come out of Canada, Cadence for me is the top for me, because it pushed the envelope towards the next generation.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Yeah. And you know what Clifton said is right. We had, thank you for that, man. That was lovely. You know what Clifton said was right. We did have a bit of a chip on our shoulder because you know what, we had this experience because yeah, I'm not sure if he shared it with you too. So for, and you know my New Yorkers, I love you guys. I love you guys. We are
But
equals now. But right, we now that we travel together and we're backstage and we're eating before shows and we're prepping, now it's love, right? In the artist room, you know. But when we first got out to New York, I remember we went out to the event, the same one at the Hilton, right? And it was like in our early phases before we started even just performing.
yeah.
And you know, I would ask somebody to dance, like, where are you from? I'm like, Canada. And you know, they would just give us this look like, are you kidding me? And I remember a couple of times like you dance from 1 on 2, and
Yeah.
at the beginning, dancing on 1 because
Yeah.
got limited resources. I'm doing what I can do, my brother.
Yes.
This is what I have, right? If I can only speak one language, don't get mad at me because I can't speak your language.
Absolutely.
So New Yorkers dance on 2.
Yeah.
This going in, but somebody would ask, right? Like they see me, oh, okay, you want to dance? We get out to dance for, oh no, and just like, and I was like, this is what I realized: New York is not a joke.
No.
These guys, this girl will just cut the dance in the middle, like, no, I'm not, you know, I came to dance on. Thank you, sweetheart, appreciate it. And book, like, whoa, okay. But, and Clifton had the same experience. He's like, yo, these guys are not playing. So, you know, we did our bachata, and bachata was light then. You know, we would do our cha-cha, and we performed. But it was really like the next time we got invited back, we're like, yo, we're going to do this proper. We're going to get our on-2 game down. We're going to get this down. We're going to come out. But we really wanted to prove ourselves like, hey, we belong, right? We belong next to you guys. And we want to showcase what we can bring, right? Like we're hungry. We got something different. We want to bring it to the table. And we want everyone to share in it. And so, yeah, it took a while. But when you guys accepted us, it was love, man. And I, like I say, I love my New York people. You guys are one of my favorite.
I mean, as you say, we're really a tough crowd. I understand. I've seen the experience. I've been the person looking at the crowd, like they're just like arms crossed, just waiting for the mess up, waiting for the quote unquote fuck up.
Yeah.
Come on, New Yorkers, you got to agree with me. We are like that at points. But it was really Cadence for me that was the symbol of the new generation coming in, being able to fuse styles and not make it a gimmick, make it stick and make it work. And it came from, you know, the hard work and dedication from all those years ago with you and Clifton, and it blossomed. And you've seen how many dancers have come in and out of Cadence and have grown as people. So now really helping me understand, of course, your life through Cadence, and, you know, just things are just traveling a mile a minute. You're traveling from place to place at points. Even right before COVID happens, understanding what was, of course, coming from starting Cadence and get into this whole dance life.
Right.
What were those moments like for you then leading up to when COVID really happened? Was it kind of you were waiting to go to your next show and then everything stops at that point?
Yeah. So, I mean, leading up to it, like just to kind of give you a bit of a block. So what had happened, I was in a period, I was in Asia for touring out there. So I was in Japan, mainland China, and Korea. And I was there for like 2.5, 3 years, right? Working out there, choreographing, teaching at the schools. I had my home base, and Clifton was in Toronto managing Cadence. And I was trying to do some stuff to help branch out Cadence out there. I would come back every once in a while. So we were a bit split. And then when I came back, you know, we got everything kind of cooking again. And then just before COVID, we were still building some routines. I was working with Bria a bit at the time, right? I remember Bria and I were at Las Chicas Locas. We did a couple of shows out there, and we were doing some events as well, the Island Touch events. And, you know, and we were in Chicago and a few other places. And I think the tail end, so that last COVID was 2020, right? 2020. So 2019, I was starting to slow down a little bit, right? So I was starting to take some time off, really just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the dance thing, you know? Like, I'll be honest with you, like I've had periods where I'm just like, you know, I'm getting a bit older. I'm for my body. And I was
Mm.
already in the mindset, like, how do I shift but still stay connected with the community? What is it that I do? I wasn't sure. Do I want to do workshops more? Do I want to, do one-on-one stuff? Do I
Yeah.
want to find a partner and work with? I was really trying to figure out. It was a year of reflection for me, I would say, too, right? Clifton still knew he wanted to do the same thing with the
Yeah.
team. I was sorry. I thought that. So that's where things were just before, and then COVID kind of hit, and he was still preparing for stuff, right? He
Yeah.
was preparing for the shows and everything that was upcoming, and then COVID hit, and COVID hit early because COVID hit like in March.
Yeah.
And for him, it was like, and I know because usually we're booked the year before almost the entire year, right? So in 2019 all your shows for 2020, right? And sometimes there's usually like 30 shows or something that you're booked consistently, or if we don't go, if Clifton and I don't go, we'll send the artist or somebody else. He'll go to one event and I'll go to another, just so we have one director at the event. So he had that lineup, but wasn't sure what was going to happen. So it took a bit of a hit because, everyone was prepared for these. Some of these flights are booked. You've scheduled time. But then we also have a studio. So we had a studio that we're operating. So he had to figure out just kind of what's going on. So at the beginning, it was a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
I was just kind of watching to see, but I was already, like I said to you, I was already in this transitionary mindset. Like I'm looking to transition to something different. And it just really shook some people, man. Like it shook us in the sense that, I was still trying to be creative with dance. So I had to just figure out, like, can we go to a studio? Can we practice? Because in Canada, the laws were really tight. Clifton ended up shutting down the studio, right? So Cadence was shut down, right? Because people were just kind of bleeding money. Some people rent out spots, but we had a space. So then you couldn't practice. And really, to be honest with you, everything came to a standstill. You guys have to imagine, like, what they've done in Canada. New York is a bit different. Is they say every non-essential business can't run. Dance falls under non-essential. You can't be open. You can't have students. You can't run classes. You can only be there if you if you work there. But you can't run any classes. You can't do choreography with your team, and they police it. So bylaw officers would come by and check in, right? Like once I was in the studio and they came by to check in because I had music playing. So it really, like, you don't see anything running out here. Everything's just kind of come to a standstill right now, and we're at a new phase. But it was a bit of a shock, like socials, traveling, studio, all that just came to a halt. And no one was really expecting it. So, at first it was kind of like, what now? Like, what do we do? How do we figure this out? Is everyone okay? And I'll tell you this, like, and I was talking to some of the dancers that I used to work with, and Bria being one of them, people were just losing sense of self.
Yeah.
That impact made people feel like, okay, what do I do? Like, who am I now? Like, I've known this, I've done this, I have my agenda for the year, I have my roadmap, I'm an artist, I'm a dancer, I've trained for this, I prepared, I have my studio. Life makes sense. COVID hits and it's like, okay, I don't even know what's happening tomorrow anymore.
Yeah.
And it really, you start to lose like your sense of identity and who you are. For a lot of people have to transition to different things. And I think that was the biggest eye opener for me, man. Like, but that's kind of how the journey was. But that was the biggest eye opener. Like, okay, we gotta figure this out.
Yeah,
have to figure this out. Yeah,
absolutely. I appreciate the honesty and transparency because, like yourself and others, even the people we've interviewed on our platforms, we've understood how COVID has affected our community heavily, from closures of schools,
right.
Businesses not be able to run. But I think also realizing how much dance meant to so many people, but how this specific virus affects us because we thrive on connection,
Right.
thrive on being close to one another. So this is something that definitely alters our space for a while and really still continues to do. But realizing too, and this now before we get into the segment that I have called the randoms. The question that I have now for you is,
Yeah.
from COVID happening, and then of course, with the addition of the Next Up in the Spotlight, your platform, a question I always wanted to ask you was, what was some of the biggest lessons that you've learned thus far from doing Next Up in the Spotlight?
Some of the biggest lessons. Yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can try to break them down and remember them. Now you're saying lessons that I've learned from the artist, or lessons
Yes,
just
from
going
not just from really the interviewer side, but more from the guests that you have interviewed in the past. Maybe that cliche quote of "Don't judge a book by its cover," or like you never know what to expect in a sense with certain.
Yeah. Like some of the biggest learnings, like I interviewed, and I remember not, may not remember everyone's name, so I apologize, but I interviewed Junior and Emily.
Yes.
And that was a really dope interview. And he was talking about, I related to Junior's interview because I've had some hard struggles in life, and I've had some bad decisions that I've made. And those decisions have impacted, just my output. And it's like, if I didn't get involved with certain things, my output would have been better. And sometimes, back before it was hard to talk about. Now it's easy for me to talk about. I can own it. But I was talking to Junior, and it was so motivational because Junior was like, he was getting in trouble with the law, and he had an opportunity. They were about to fly out, I think, to like Japan, him and his sister, and the family's ready and the bags are packed. And, he's sitting in a lockup. And it's like, the lesson I learned from him is like, he just came to this realization of what's really important, know, but like he had to hit almost like a rock bottom, let's call it, before you realize it. But he was able to shift it, turn it into something that's fruitful and promising and profitable. And, it taught me this lesson that like, you're never really down and out until like, unless you give up on yourself. Like, you got to always push and persevere. And even when it looks like there's no way, like if you're still go for it, you can get it. Right. And I felt like that can apply to my life, but in so many different areas. Right. And in so many different people, like even with art and dance and anything that you're doing, really, like, you can include any type of career, any vertical. You are going to face challenges, and even personal challenges that might hinder or affect your creative idea or your business idea or your entrepreneurial idea. But if you still stick to it and say like, I still need to make this happen. Yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I wasn't as good as I said. Yes, I fell short of my promise. Yes, I let, somebody down. If you sit in that negativity, you're going to be stagnant and you're not going to move forward. But if you can say, yes, almost forgive yourself and like, what can I do to be better? I felt like that was super inspirational because I feel like we all slip and we all fall in our own different ways. But what motivates some to move forward and what causes people to stay in that spot, right? So that was super, super, super influential for me when I heard that from Junior and Emily. And it was a great interview.
Yeah.
But I love that. That was a big lesson that I learned. Another lesson that I learned too is that I think I was talking to who is it from Spain, Madrid, Berlin and Marcel and Berlin. Yes, they were talking about their training, and and I was training with different people, and sometimes you try to find, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, but they would train like 5 hours to 8 hours sometimes a day on their craft, plus do like whatever other job that they had to do. And the thing that I took from that is like, sometimes I'm working on the thing that I really want in life, and I might put in an hour or two. Sometimes I put in 3 hours. But it reminds me, and then when dance, I've been in their studio 8 hours, 12 hours. But it was a good reminder, like, hey, whatever you're really going for, you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
Like, you have to work past that comfort zone. You have to master it, like mastery. Like, you got to get in there, know it, understand it. And then when you think you're comfortable with it, do it again until it becomes just natural. Just right. And Ataka said the same thing. Ataka said, if he could do something over like 10,000 hours of repetition.
Yes.
He was talking about that as well. And that was another big thing for me, is just like go in there and do it. Even and when you're ready to leave, do it again. You know, and when you think you've done enough, do it again. Or like if I'm reading up on something and I think I know more, spend a little more time, because that's what really starts to separate you, right? When you really understand your craft, I felt like that's what really starts to separate you. And when it came to dance, I noticed that we implemented that. But there were other areas of my life that I wasn't doing. I was like, okay, this is a huge lesson learned. So that was another big piece that Ataka shared, and then Marcelo and Belin shared. And then maybe one more, which was Dejan.
Yeah.
Orleans, Dejan said something about just like discipline, right? And I know his background, so it makes sense, but just being disciplined with what you do, you know, set your agenda and just be disciplined with it. Having your routine and being disciplined with it. And because when you're excited to be in the studio, or when you're excited to jump on and do like Next Up on the Spotlight, where I'm excited to interview a guest, or I'm excited to put something together, when you're excited, the momentum and the motivation is easy.
Yeah.
It's easy when you're excited. When life is harder, or reality of life sets in, or COVID sets in, or something, it's harder to do things then, but just sticking to your routine is important. Cara Flores, she talked about scheduling, and she's like, one of the ways you can keep discipline is in your schedule, you know. And I schedule, I'm better at my schedule now, but she's like, everything is scheduled, so you know, for the week, this is what I got to do, this is what I need to do, and then everything else you can push it aside, right? And when it's not scheduled, it's not clean, it's harder to hit your goals. So those were some of the few lessons that I really learned. But overall, man, I learned that like all the artists had to go through a curve, like you have to go through a learning, like so Lyric Cruz was saying this, he's like, he feels like a little bit like now there's this instant gratification that people want, like people want this now, right? And sorry, I'm running into my answer, but like I feel passionate about this, and all like that lesson is like for those that are entering anything right now, whether you're just trying to get into the dance thing and you're like, you know what, this is an opportunity for you to get into dance, or you want to do more speaking like we're doing and you want to be more visible, it takes time. Like just stick to your passion, but know that it takes time. I know we're in an instant world.
Yeah.
It takes time, and it's just patient, consistency, and belief. And the last thing that I'm gonna say is clarity. I think clarity, maybe I should have said clarity first, but clarity is like, if I put it into dance, do I want to be a bachata dancer? Or do I want to be a salsa dancer? Do I want to dance kizomba? People say they want to dance. And then if it's bachata, do I want to do bachata cabaret? Do I want to do Dominican? Do I want to do fusion? Do I want to do zuchata? Like, and then do I want to be a good social dancer? Do I want to be a good instructor? Do I want to teach workshops? Do I want to tour? Do I want to have a studio? They're very different avenues, and having clarity as to what is important to you and what type of, you know, service you want to give will give you some clarity as to where to go, because there's so many options when you get into something. So many different avenues, right? So that was a big lesson for me, because even with Next Up in the Spotlight, where I'm hosting and I have a lot of artists and musicians and dancers coming in, I still trying to always find your voice, but clarity as to where I want to go with it, right? I'm always just doing this auditing and like, okay, is this where I want to be? Does this feel right? You know, because things are always shifting. So having that clarity is big. But those are some of the lessons I learned from all the interviews and the guests that have come on.
Absolutely. I love that. I love those answers, because it really shows that you've paid attention to your guests. You really care, and I appreciate that. And now it helps me transition to our closing segment called The Randoms, which allows me and the audience to get to know a little bit more about you.
Let's do it.
Here I have 10 questions.
And my hat off. I'm not sure if it's going to be hot.
All right. Right now, if you could have one meal, what would it be?
Cake.
Right answer.
Cake.
What kind of cake?
chocolate cheesecake with the vanilla ice cream.
Oh man. I love it. All right.
Right?
Next question.
Yeah.
Your favorite workout song.
Favorite workout song. Favorite workout song. I was just playing this. It's a Wu-Tang. It's a Wu-Tang song called I can't remember the name, but it's a Wu-Tang track. Okay. It's like an old school track, and it just gets me hyped.
All right. Big ups to Wu-Tang. Next question. Dream vacation destination.
Fiji, on the island, just on the beach, secluded, just right by the water on a hut and just chilling. And they bring me fruits and avocados and cheesecake and ice.
My God. So now this next question is going to be even better. So many people who know or don't know that you went to Southern University in Louisiana, Baton Rouge to be specific. So my question is, what is your favorite Louisiana dish?
Favorite Louisiana dish? What was that fish this guy would cook? I had a roommate. Oh, what was the help me out. It's a fish dish.
You mean a po' boy?
No. My roommate would cook. Yeah, he would cook in the room. We weren't supposed to cook.
Oh, I know about those. The RAs.
They cook in the room. Oh my God. I can't remember the name. I'm so sorry. I can't remember the name. That's twice I'm forgetting names now. You can tell me with Albert Torres. I forgot that. But my roommate would cook in our dorm.
Yeah.
Just make some food, and it was just, I don't know sure if it was a home recipe because he was from Louisiana, but that was probably my favorite.
All right. Awesome. So next question, number 5, is what would be your spirit animal?
Spirit animal. Something ferocious, like a panther.
I like that answer. I like that. I appreciate that.
Right? Like, because he's, because the cat's got the little sleep.
You're sneaky.
Right? But not sneaky, but yeah, like sneaky, slick, but kind of quiet, and the panther's kind of like dark, but also strong, right? So that's. I know you didn't ask for the explanation, but
I'm glad I got the explanation. All right, next question.
Yeah.
Partner work or shines?
Ooh, I like that one. Partner work or shines? I'm gonna say shines.
I love it. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Next question. What would be your superpower?
Ooh, if I had a superpower, my superpower would be, I'd want to fly.
I mean, I don't blame you. I
want to fly just because, like, right now with COVID, see, I get into explanations. Right now, they ban travel for us. So if I could fly, I would head over to New York and then over to Miami, because everyone's in Miami right now because it seems like COVID is not there the way they've been partying. The way you see Sharon and these events, I'm like, yo, okay.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
Yeah, bro. Just talking to him, like, yo, are you guys, is there COVID out there? He's like, nah, man, everyone's just dancing. He's like, he said in Florida, it's like business as usual.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, I appreciate the notion of the flying because, of course, it makes sense. You can get to where you got to go at any point in time. And I mean, like you said, where you are, they ban traveling. So missing that luxury. Yes. So next question is,
I'm liking these questions. I'm ready.
Absolutely. If you could be at an event right now, event, what would it be? And it could only be one.
Which event?
Yes.
Oh boy. Oh man. Okay. I loved, I was telling Carolina too, who I danced with. I love bachatu.
Oh
It
yes.
was pretty dope, man. I love bachatu. Yeah, man. Like, and it's just being by the beach, being by the water. It's not
Yeah.
a luxurious event, but just like good vibes. Good
Yes.
vibes. If I had to pick one, the beach, the water, the sun, the dancing, Island Touch, they're like family to me.
Yeah.
Right? They're literally like family. So, yeah, I would say that was that would be the event.
All right. And you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Determined.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now it brings us to our last question.
Yes,
It
sir.
goes like this. If
Mm.
you were at a dance event, at a social event, what is a big don't for Patrick? Meaning is, what is something, if you're dancing with a follow, you prefer them not to do?
Oh, hit me. I've got those
Absolutely.
flying elbows.
Yes.
Listen, so I'm gonna give the big don't, like, playful answer, then I'm gonna give the real answer because
Mhm.
So the big don't is just everyone have fun. Be mindful of your arms and your body,
Mhm.
right? Your extremities. I've gotten hit a couple of times. People are in their feelings,
Yeah.
and sometimes it hurts. An elbow to the face hurts for sure. But really and truthfully,
Mhm.
the biggest thing for a follow is to be in the moment and have fun. That is the serious answer. Sometimes people are worried about other things, or they're paying attention somewhere else, or they're worried if you're enjoying the dance, or they're in their head. And I'm just like, just have fun. Like, I'm here to have fun with you, and we're sharing a moment together. And my objective is to have fun, and hopefully like, you're having fun dancing with me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, because sometimes people get nervous, especially if they dance with someone who's performed, or you're
Mhm.
part of the team, and they come in with this expectation, and they're trying to, I'm like, let's just have fun, right? And just simplifies everything. And then you enjoy the moment more, and we create this synergy together. So
Awesome. And thank you, Patrick, so much for doing this segment. I love doing this because it helps me. It helps me and the audience get to know the artists like yourself a lot better. Some questions a little crazier than others, but it definitely helps us nonetheless. So again, before we go, I really want to thank you so much for coming on the platform. I'd love, of course, to come on to yours, and
yeah,
realizing through
definitely.
networking, whether it's through dance, whether it's through podcasting, we're making a difference. But at least before we go, I'd love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, and also contact info on how people can learn a lot more about Next Up in the Spotlight.
Most definitely, most definitely. Yeah. So my last words for everyone that is here is like, yo, um, keep pushing, keep persevering, keep doing what it is that you've been doing, right? We haven't come this far to stop here, right? Artists, performers, entrepreneurs, people who are just new to the craft, people who've always aspired to get there, event organizers, promoters, Congress event organizers, like, just continue working, because the opportunity will come up where you can do what you got to do, and definitely take advantage of that. So I wanted to say that. Also wanted to say thank you for creating space and having me on. Thank you for giving me a voice where I can speak and really share my story with everyone. And I hope, if it inspires one person, that's why I wanted to share some of my downfalls too, because we all go through ups and downs, right? I'm not perfect. I'm still working at it, but I'm still driven, and I want to have my goals. So, just wanted to share that with anyone, because I know this is such a trying time with
Yeah.
COVID, what people are experiencing, and with so much uncertainty in the world. And what I wanted to say to you, my brothers, love what you're doing. I
Thank
think
you.
it's important. I think there's so much value in it. I think there's so much life lessons and hacks and learnings that people can
Mhm.
get from it. And I think it takes courage to also do it. So thank you for doing this as well. I'm happy to be a guest on it. Love this time. You really with some of the hot seat questions too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what do I answer?
Yeah.
But all in all, your energy is great, man. I'd love to have you on next up where we can talk and share some
Yeah.
more. Let's set that up. And for those who want to be a part of Next Up, artists, performers, dancers, aspiring artists, the platform is for new artists, musicians, singers, dancers, that just want to platform where they can be heard and seen and share their story, and by doing so inspire others. You can reach out to me. It's Patrick Pat. Email is nextupinnthespotlight@gmail.com. You go to my Instagram, nextup_in-the-spotlight. That's where I'm at. You can find me, message me, DM me, let me know. I'll put you on. Let's make it happen. 2021 is our year. Let's do this.
Absolutely. I want to thank you, Patrick, again for coming onto the platform. Thank everyone who's been able to listen or will be listening in the future. It's been a great time. Also, too, hopefully we can have you in the future. I would love to do a panel with the Canadian squad. So
yeah.
I want to do that. Yeah. So we'll definitely have that in the works for sure. But I want to thank everyone, and also you again, Patrick, for your time. And definitely until next time, everyone be safe and be happy.
Thank you, my brother. Be safe. That was dope.